Interesting situation which harks back to days of yore when there were the battles over fishing rights, particularly between the British and the Spanish. But right now the spat has blown up between the French and the British over a Scottish boat that was in French waters. Is this, sorry, I might have to throw the pun in, is this being selfish over shellfish?
Well, as you rightly mentioned, disputes over fishing has been going on for really hundreds of years. I mean, it sounds silly, but this is the history of Europe, and it's no coincidence that this dispute has come exactly at the moment that Britain withdraws from the European Union and the single market and the customs union. I think what we're looking at is actually a technical administrative issue that is being sort of blown up by both sides for sort of domestic political capital. On France's side, we have Macron, who faces a nationalist challenge in the presidential election next year. And so actually it's quite convenient for him to have a new sort of scapegoat, if you will, or at least a new border with Britain to sort of saber rattle about some of these issues to do with France's sovereignty. Whereas on the UK, we have obviously a difficult situation ongoing with the pandemic. We have supply chains still disrupted, and we have high inflation on the UK. So you can see why both sides want to actually make something out of this dispute, which really should be handled on a kind of administrative level, because essentially, both sides under the Brexit deal that was agreed late last year and implemented early this year provides that actually existing fishing rights as they were under the UK's membership of the European Union. And the way that's been handled is basically by providing licenses on both sides to European and French fishermen. In the UK has legislated to basically require any European fishing vessel that wants to fish in sort of British waters to provide proof and documentation that they were accessing those waters before the new treaty came into existence. That's proved particularly difficult for some smaller European and particularly French fishing vessels who don't really have the technology, as I understand, to sort of prove that. And that's why you have a sort of small number, around 2% out of total licenses that have been applied for have not been granted by the UK. So as I mentioned, this is a administrative issue, but you can see really both sides trying to maximise for political gain.
The threat by France to cut off electricity supplies to Jersey, which, as you mentioned, is because of its proximity to the French mainland. Their electricity supply largely comes from France. This threat seems disproportionate, or at least this is what the British politicians are saying, that the threat is disproportionate to the situation that has evolved. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think it's ultimately right. I mean, the UK is really only used to these kind of threats being made from, let's say, Russia, threatening to turn off gas and electricity supplies. So to hear it from really, a sort of main Western ally, I think is quite a shock. And I think probably, in the EU, which at the moment has sort of stood back and, considered this to be a bilateral issue between France and the UK, I think that's, if this was really to happen and France was actually to sort of carry forward its actions that it's threatened on electricity supply to Jersey or indeed the rest of the UK, I think that's probably where the EU would interfere, because I think that would probably destabilise EU-UK relations, not just French-UK relations. But I think, what we're seeing is basically Macron and the French government try to use up its sort of arsenal of threats to basically try to get the kind of outcome that it really wants from this situation. And I think ultimately, as we look on how this is going to be resolved, it's not simply that both sides are simply just trying to get the issue resolved. They actually want to end this issue in a way that makes both sides look like the victor. And I think, I think the UK does look at the threats over electricity as disproportionate. I think that's probably one of the main things that's triggered the UK into recalling the French ambassador who's currently meeting the British government tonight.
Well, we'll look to see where it happens, but it does seem like some very loud sabre rattling, or in nautical terms, a shot across the bows. Let's hope that that it doesn't escalate any further, and that a resolution is found, and that maybe that each side manages to save face and win in their own way. Adam Schwarz, thanks so much for joining us today and giving us your analysis. Thank you.